And you're gonna be drinking soda all through the thing. We're about to go.
Well, yeah, but you know, I gotta have something to drink.
Yeah, well, I'm probably gonna be coughing.
I get parched very easily.
Me too. Look at you in your jacket, looking more professional here.
I love this jacket. The only problem is like you have to wear plain clothes underneath. Like I couldn't wear like a V-neck or anything. It
Oh.
look weird with all this texture.
Oh,
Although
yeah.
I know it doesn't come across on camera, but how
Stylish.
soft it is.
Stylish.
Like it might be a bodyguard or something.
I am a bodyguard.
Too damn big.
Is it 11 o'clock yet? Can we start?
1 minute
Is it?
till.
1 minute till?
All right.
Well, if you're watching this, we're waiting for you. Depending upon the
Just
method.
wait for time. We're
Wait
not
for time. Depending upon the method that you're watching this space, because we're broadcasting in 2 different ways, please feel free to submit some questions to us. If we can answer the questions during the broadcast, we will. If not, we'll give you ways to contact us afterwards, and we can get your very specific questions answered, because it's kind of what we do.
Yeah, we have numbers, lots of numbers.
Want to help
Send
people.
them outside instead of keep them all in house. So.
Yeah, it's kind of our jam.
Gentlemen, it's 11 o'clock. Shall
It's
we
11
start?
o'clock. Let's
Cool.
start.
All right, Mr. Jones kicks off.
Hi, everybody. My name is Matt, and this is Ivan. And this is episode 5 of The Download. And if this is your first time turning in, this is what The Download is about. Data that Edmunds has that we are sharing with our dealer partners free of charge, no sales pitch, no nothing, to help you be a little bit more effective with your customers. And the reason we do this is just to show you the new landscape, some things that you may not see on your own at the dealership.
Yeah, you might see at a granular level or individual stores, even some of the groups, you might aggregate your data upwards, and some of the high level guys might be seeing these trends overall. But you know, to help everyone be on the same page, hopefully this kind of presentation helps convey that message all throughout the organization.
Absolutely. Tell these people to introduce yourself. If you would.
Name's Ivan Drury, Senior Manager of Insights at Edmunds. Been doing this for like 12-ish years at Edmunds. Worked at JD Power and Quality Studies, Honda's product planning, and yeah, just love cars ever since I was a kid. So
I'm Matt. I've been at Edmunds for 6 years, in the car business for a total of 18. I got my start on the sales floor. I spent about 5 years on the floor. Ran a couple internet departments, was in finance for a couple years, and spent some time on the desk. And now here at Edmunds, trying to help make sense of the car business for everybody who's interested in the car business. Everybody.
dealer, customer, GM, whomever.
Whoever. So today's topic is Truck Month. We're not really going to be talking about trucks.
Right, we're not going to talk about horsepower, towing capacity, MPG, aluminum in F-150s, and carbon fiber and GMC, you know, the Denali trim level, which we know about, but at the same time, we're talking about transactions. Money.
The people who are buying trucks are more important in this case than actually the trucks. So we're going to talk a little bit, just if you haven't done this before, we have 3 real sections of this. The first one is what's really going on in this particular market. It's going to be about 5-7 minutes.
Yeah.
Second section, what are your shoppers experiencing? And we can say this because we have transaction data and shopper behavior data that, you know, you may not. The last section, another 5 or 6 minutes, is probably the most important. What can you do with this information for free at your store to create a process to help handle these things, right? Okay, so but before we start, let's have some fun. I have a question, all right? What do the 1% buy?
Who's buying these trucks?
Yeah.
They're so fancy and expensive nowadays. Who is the buyer, right?
Like, no, that's not that question. What is the top 1% of earners in the country buying? What do they buy? We know we're going to talk about trucks. All right. What is the top 1% of the country buying?
I don't know. Why don't you show me? You would assume.
You assume, right?
Assume.
Is this what the top 1%? Oh, is that Offset? Cardi? Yeah. Okay. Some Lambos, maybe.
Right.
All right.
A lot of money.
What else?
Again.
All right. So go. Right. Is that what they're buying?
Mm-hmm.
In reality, the top 1% is more like this dude. The highest earners in the country, people who earn over 250 grand.
250K. Yeah, that's our bracket for high income earners and above 250K.
They're buying trucks. Now, of course, there's some Teslas in there, but if you take out the Teslas, everything here is a truck of some variant, right? But we're really going to talk about these kind of trucks, right? Pickup trucks. I mean, I guess we could call these all trucks. We're really going to talk about pickup trucks. But it's interesting. The second most purchased vehicle in the country by top earners is a pickup. right?
Yeah, it's not some stripped down farm piece of equipment these guys are buying.
No, so ballers, right?
Lots of them too.
So we get this, like, we're all kind of told that, it's like the Margot man, the modest farmer or whatever who's buying trucks, and they still do. But people who are making some serious income are also buying these things too, right? So let's just talk for a second about the number. 14%, if I'm reading this data right?
That is the right market share for as of right now. We saw a little bit of turbulence, but so did everyone during their session.
Right. So right now, 2018, this is just a graph of where the truck market has looked like for the past couple of years. But right now, we're sitting at 14% of purchases are trucks, right? But this is
large trucks,
large
talking
trucks.
F-150s, 3,500 grams, things of that nature. If we roll together mid-size like Tacoma, newly launched Ranger, you'll be something very close to 20-ish%. We're talking 1 out of 5 sales is a truck, is a pickup. But we're talking about those big, expensive ones as right now. Maybe allude a little bit to mid-size, but we'll move on from there.
All right, so 1 out of 5 people, 1 out of 5 new purchases in the country is a truck.
Yeah.
Ballers are also buying trucks in addition to people who are using them for work. Right?
Yes,
okay.
very much
It's
so.
important to keep those two things in mind. So what's that kind of what's happening? How about you talk about the money of trucks right now?
Love money. There's lots of money in trucks. You guys already know that component. If you sold even a single one, we've probably seen that thing touching close to 50K in average transaction price. But if we compare that to the rest of the industry, right? If you look at where we were back in 2002, these things were kind of close, right? You're only talking about 2K difference. Throughout time, with availability of options, infotainment, off-road packages, and crew cabs, we'll talk about some of that stuff later. But it's been this big disparity now. Now we're looking at like a $13,000, $14,000 difference. Once was considered to be a normal vehicle, a very obtainable vehicle, is now deep into luxury car status.
Yes.
50K will easily buy you any mark, any brand of luxury vehicle. You can probably get yourself a midsize or a very well-optioned compact sedan from BMW, Mercedes, whomever, whatever your fancy is, right? But really over time, we've seen this very disparate trend, and many reasons back that.
Yeah, but for what we want to always keep in mind in these conversations is we're talking about what shoppers see. Not only is this the market, but what shoppers see. So this, we're not going to suggest that your average shopper last was in the market in 2002, but you might catch somebody who's like, oh my gosh, trucks are so much more than cars are now. And you can see, just like Ivan said, that separation is getting more and more. And you can kind of attribute that to some of the ballers, people who actually want nicer stuff in their car. They want leather, they want this, and blah, blah, blah.
More of a recreational purchase.
Yes.
Not so much as, hey, I got to get down and dirty, do some work with this thing. Now, granted, some people might be doing that too, but when you look at how clean some of these things are, it's more show than go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, let's talk some more about pricing, right?
Yes.
And let's talk, this is one of your hot buttons. We're going to talk about like highly configured vehicles, but explain what that means first.
Right. So we look over time. The base MSRP on average for trucks, it's gone up. Yeah, like no kidding.
Everything has.
Everything
right?
has.
Everything
it's just
has.
an overall industry trend.
Right.
When people say cars getting more expensive, trucks getting more, everything's getting more expensive, I say it's self-selected. People sometimes like to do this to themselves, and not that it's a bad thing. I mean, clearly, if you're spending 50K, you probably like what you bought. If you don't, that's another problem altogether.
Right.
But as of now, if you look at that starting price versus where it transacts, that's because people are getting into crew cabs.
Yeah.
Getting FX4 packages on these things. They're also saying, you know what, I want a Raptor. Or maybe it's going to be that Denali trim level, which is insanely luxurious.
Yes.
So when you add up all these options, we've gone from like back in the days, 2008, only a decade, $14,000-ish in options. We're looking at 24,000 almost.
That's huge.
And yeah, that's the thing, is like, because as these become more based in infotainment,
You're right.
technology, 360 cameras, towing packages that help you see things, once you drive it, you don't want to give it up. Or what if you're coming from a luxury car and you're going to buy one of these? You give up your leather?
Or to go to vinyl?
Right.
It's not going to happen. No. So that jump, 23 grand in ads from base to what people are normally transacting at, right? So this whole market is shifting. Now, would you forgive me for just a second?
Have at it.
We don't know who's watching this right now. We expect there's going to be people from the car business, from all different positions of the car business. And if you've been in the car business for 100,000 years and you've been selling cars since the beginning of time, you may know this. This isn't necessarily for you. This is really more for the newish salesperson that's coming into the stores right now, because we know turnovers like sitting around 50% on average, like year to date, right? So there's a good chance that the salespeople, maybe not you, but the salespeople on your staff don't have this information. That's why we want to lay it out for them so that they have a little bit of context when dealing with your customers and the customers
And
that
the
work.
customers themselves.
The customers
too, right?
themselves,
Like I
right?
feel very okay with sharing this then with the same information with the customer.
Yeah, there's nothing
Okay.
wrong with this. Like, hey, look how much things have jumped. Okay, sorry for that. Now we talk about, again, you got your baller,
Yep.
right? Who's deciding, okay, I've had this luxury vehicle, or I'm accustomed to certain particular things, or I want a
I want
12-inch
to justify
display,
the purchase, right?
So, but look what they're buying. Look how they have changed the segment. 80% of crew cab, or 80% of trucks this year expected to be sold are going to be crew cab. So not a single cab, right?
No.
Not necessarily full.
Not even extended with the funny quarter-size doors or whatever you want to call them, or suicides as some have. We're talking full 4 doors. Why?
Straight up family mobile.
Family. It's a much easier argument to say, look, I'm going to drop $50-something thousand, but at the same time, it's not just for doing home renovation, or maybe you have a business on the side, but you can say, look, I can take the family and do whatever I want.
And give them plenty of room, and they've got all the luxury features and all the creature comforts that I'm used to. And look, it's playing out over the past 5 years. We've just seen this crew cab, this truck sedan, kind of Tredan, kind of like take the marketplace, right? So this is kind of where trucks are right now. Now, we've talked about who's buying trucks.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about what trucks,
Transaction-wise, we'll be looking at from a money standpoint.
and now we're going to tell you what you might like the most out of this little section is when are they buying trucks? Now, this chart behind us, red is bad, green is good. Green indicates the highest volume of trucks sold per the year. So for example, if you take a look at the top in 2002, July was the 12th worst month. December was the 1st, right? Get down into our times,
It's changed a little bit.
things are changing. And we're sitting here in September, and it looks like the best selling time of the year for trucks is coming up right now, right?
And now's a good time too, because you have model year sell down. And for anybody who's been in the business just a little bit or has been watching to some degree of what's available, I mean, it's like war out there between all the OEMs and the different variations of what they're selling. Ram Classic versus standard redesigned Ram. I mean, there's just so much happening. And we see it all happening right around here. Vast majority of the sales.
So that's why our presentation today is about Truck Month to help you prepare for these months. You're going to probably have your 3 best months for truck sales coming up like right now. So that was kind of our intro as to what's happening with the truck market.
Yes.
Yes?
Some
Okay.
history.
All right. Now, what are our shoppers feeling? Right? At the beginning, section 2, what are shoppers' expectations? Okay, so probably to lead it off, it would be good to talk about maybe like loyalty first off.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
All right.
So at the top of this list, large truck loyalty, it's pretty solid, right?
They are the most loyal groups. When we look at anybody who's driving up to your lot, you see them driving a subcompact SUV, only a quarter of the time they're going to buy another one. You see someone pull up in a 1500 Silverado, odds are very high. Almost 2/3 chance that they're going to buy yet another truck. They might not buy another Silverado. Maybe they're going to trade brands. They're going to go and get conquested by Ram or Ford or Tundra,
whatever, right? But they're going to buy another truck.
Stay in that segment.
So the people who live and breathe trucks are probably pretty familiar with the truck market, right? So we're not really going to talk about them so much right now. We're going to talk about segment switchers,
New crop of customers.
the new customers, because trucks are just doing so well that it's pulling people in from other segments. And we don't know how well you can see, but right here, this blue line right now, about 7% of people driving cars are trading them in for trucks, right? Almost 9% of SUV drivers are trading them in for trucks. Now, of course, people switch all the time, but this is kind of significant when we talk about the money that's involved, right? So let's just set this up for a little bit. How long does the average driver have their car?
5-6 years. They're probably barely paying off that loan.
Okay. Let's say 6. Some
people.
people are, but yeah, everybody's upside down. Let's say 6 years, right? Okay. So if you know that you're going to have shoppers that are coming into you, just on average, we're talking about averages, that have been in their car for 6 years or bought their car 6 years ago or their SUV 6 years ago, it might be worth considering where they are going to be at. And that's what we're going to talk about for a moment. So,
Like the saying, the car shopper, the person who pulls up in a mid-sized car, compact car, whatever it is, a sedan of some sort, they're going to be in for a world of shock and awe when you lay out those new numbers, right? Because people only have a reference point that was their last.
Right.
Because people typically don't buy a car every year, every 2 years.
And they don't live in the car business.
Right. They don't have a family they're going to support by buying everybody cars all the time.
Right.
So that said, if you are accustomed to a tick over $400 a month.
And that's what your car buyer is, right? Who bought a car in 2013, right? This is what they're used to, right?
64 months sounds kind of reasonable. Like, 5-ish year loan.
Fine.
24K, not a ton of money.
Good rates.
Oh yeah, very good rates, especially back then. And we're not going to show you, but interest rates overall, just in general, you guys probably have seen this, that they are up. And that's part of the Fed, that's part of less subsidization for automakers, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter.
For them, rates
Rates are up.
Yeah.
Across the board. But I think this is the scary part, right?
Right.
A couple more months, not going to kill anybody. We know people, they're fine with extending terms, but $300, that's like a 70-something% jump
Yeah.
in how much their monthly payment's going to be. Again, amount finance is almost damn near as much as how much their first vehicle cost.
Absolutely. And so the point to give, again, not the dude or gal who's been selling cars since the 50s, but the person who is just getting their feet wet and trying to understand, what the market is. Create a process to help you understand that when I pull into your lot in my 2013 Honda Accord and I decide that I want to get, a new 1500, Ram 1500, that you're going to have to bump me $300 on average. Figure out how you're going to do that so that you're not like uncomfortable, right? And so that your customer is not uncomfortable either. This is just a good piece of data to understand. And these are not numbers that we just pulled out of the air.
No.
Right?
Transaction data compiled from July 2019 versus July 2013. We captured about a third of all retail transactions. So a couple 100,000 units of VINs come through. We get a ton of data with it. Data points like this, we get another 200 as well.
So this is not imaginary. This is what's really going on. So this is cars. SUVs are a little bit better, right? They're still bumping $140 per month and 4 months on the term, and they're $730 a month. Interest rates are higher. Again, now that you know that this is a trend, now that you know that this is a thing, you can create a process around it and be prepared for it, right?
Right.
I could imagine being on the sales desk and
Which you've done, your imagination is reality.
Having a newish salesperson come in and say, hey, my customer says they want to buy this car, this truck. Their payment's like $470 now. The most that they'll go up is they'll go up $50, right? Maybe we missed something earlier on, because that jump is not going to be $50. It's going to be $300 or $140. So again, that's why we're giving you this information. Fair? Okay, cool. Now,
what you gonna do to help them out?
What you gonna do? We've told you what they cost. We told you what the bump is. We told you who's buying it. We told you when they're buying it. We've told you why things are more expensive. Now what can you do, right? It's our favorite part.
That's right. Okay, well, it might seem contrary to some folks, and we will have another slide that's a little more regionally based, but one good thing that we have seen that can help out your customers is leasing, both in general, right? The idea that we have a higher lease pen rate, something that traditionally has not been very truck oriented, the idea of leasing, because, hey, I use this for work, I use this for rough and tumble, whatever it is.
Or it's just not in my sensibilities to lease.
Right, it's just not my thing, it's just what we don't do in some DMA, some states.
Or some segments.
Right. It just hasn't historically been one of those. But as of late, with more recreational buyers and more subsidization within this large truck segment, we've seen the pen rates go up. We have more sales. Right now, we're going to look at, this volume right here has other indications other than, hey, try to offer a lease, especially if they're new to the segment. If it's a car or a mid-size owner that's getting into a truck, I think leasing is definitely one of the easiest or better ways you can kind of curb some of that pain.
Absolutely. And a lot of people who drive sedans and who drive crossover SUVs, they already do lease. So if you've got it in your mind that truck buyers don't lease, remember who a truck buyer is changing. So maybe your presentation should change. Right. And maybe that can help offset that $300 a month bump.
And these are coming back.
Yes.
Right. So the lease volume, remember, every time you lease out one, 3 years later, I know it's not coming back exactly to your store, but you might be helping someone else out too and get some used inventory.
Absolutely.
That'll help.
So consider it.
Yes. So talking about the regional aspect, I know we say that, it is heavily regionalized, and Matt's head's covering up that 10% for California, that big state right there.
Sorry.
But at the same time, it really is regional. I mean, we're talking 2%, 1, 3 for lease rates, but Michigan got all the OEMs, guys subsidizing, helping out the friends and family discount, whatever. Predominantly in the East Coast, a lot of leasing, but I think that it is an avenue in which the West and the Middle could adopt.
I mean, like, if you're sitting here in New Mexico and you have 1% lease adoption,
It's crazy.
get 2, right? If you can, it's not a big jump, right? There is opportunity here. And again, remember, people will be coming into the segment. So to help like mitigate that payment shock of $300 a month,
Yes.
for somebody who may have already leased, just put it in the vernacular. I know that we as truck sellers don't really do that, but this is something worth considering. So this is one little thing that's not going to cost you $1 that you can use to try to offset some of this pain. Is just have it in your mind who's coming into your store, people who may have leased or come from different segments,
Right.
and maybe give them an opportunity to get back into that. It might work well for them, it might work well for you. And again, people are doing it, people are already doing it. If they're not doing it where you are, well, why not give it a shot? I mean, ain't gonna go down. All right.
Yes. All right. So the other options feature, right? We talked about leasing and those vehicles coming back. If you look at the average transaction price here in the green, it really does. If you can just say, you know what, you don't like that new price, you can get a lot of these same features. Granted, it won't be the redesigned 1500 Silverado, it won't be the
Right.
redesigned Ram.
But it's the same body style
Could get the
F-150,
F-150,
right? You can
right?
still get F-150.
Yeah, right. It's going to have its aluminum, it's going to have its EcoBoost, it's going to have all those wonderful tech features that people are accustomed to. And even the other brands, they'll still have the tech. They'll have all these other things that make these trucks so much more usable on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
That idea that, you know what, it's more than just I'm hauling trash, I'm moving horses or whatever.
Yeah, that's not
conception.
what folks are doing.
Right.
Another suggestion is for people who have this payment jump.
It's like a long-term truck owner. Right?
Long-term truck owner, right? We have to imagine that not everybody who's getting a truck actually wants every single bell and whistle. We also have to imagine that not everybody who's buying these trucks actually needs the full capability that the truck provides. So we just did a little cursory research. We compared a 2010 Silverado 1500 to a 2020 Colorado. Similar trims, right? The Colorado is a little smaller. It has a little bit less towing capacity. I think the Silverado is towing 10,000 pounds. The Colorado can tow 7,700 pounds. But is that going to be adequate for a lot of people, right?
Say for the most.
For the most part. Interior dimensions are about the same, but look at what the difference in price is. I mean, we're talking about a 35 grand car now as opposed to $52,000 car.
Right.
So when those demos come in and you start snapping somebody that's saying, hey, oh my gosh, these things are so expensive. I've heard they're so expensive. Maybe consider including in your demo something that they haven't asked for that may still work for them. Something that, here's the other thing. If you've got a 2010 Silverado and it's been fine, and you buy something that's got a similar capability, right? You're not going to be any worse off.
I mean, what's the worst case? You get better fuel economy, you get way more tech, way more features, creature comforts. I mean, it's not, other than a slight amount of size and some hardcore capabilities, you're not really sacrificing a lot here.
Yeah, and a lot of these folks, we know it. A lot of these folks buying trucks are not using any hardcore
You
capabilities.
see people cross shop on the website. Like our website data shows that when people look at large trucks, people look at midsize, they always reverse and cross shop, and it happens every single time. If there's a lower tier, like a Tundra versus Tacoma, Ranger versus F-150, the shopping pattern is literally always that. They go back and forth. They look in between because they want to know, what am I getting into when I'm buying?
Yeah.
Now, granted, yes, mid-size trucks are typically recreational-ish purchases, but at the same time, if you're just accustomed to having a large truck, maybe you want to think about the mid-size to save a lot of money.
And present it. So the takeaway here is if you've got somebody who's coming in a full-size truck, don't necessarily exclude mid-size trucks because they might do the job and save the consumer, a 20 grand price jump, which might make the whole transaction better for everybody. Now, here's something that a lot of people are struggling with right now. Negative equity, right?
That's kind of big.
This is not a negative equity slide.
Segment, yeah.
There's one coming up, but that's not this. This is not a negative equity slide. Here's a fun fact. Average truck buyer that's trading in a 2012, 2011, 2013. Look how much equity they've got. On average, $11,500, right?
Resale value has been very good for trucks, and therefore positive equity, better than most segments, almost like 90% of segments.
Yeah, these are sitting pretty solid, right? And look at those payments of 734. I mean, these people are trading in. This is what they're doing now, right? So, you know, if you've come to a truck brand and you've come out of a car brand, you may be scared of customers who have a loan that's ongoing right now because they might be upside down as segments have shifted. Well, that segment shift is actually working in your favor. So seek out people who have trades, seek out people who have cars that are 6, 7 years old. It's going to be easier to deal with them. The next slide, here's the negative equity. So you want to just...
Yeah, I mean, right there you're looking at 7K, but this, again, is someone who's trading a vehicle on a very frequent basis. Average age of it's like 3 years old. So this is someone who's, maybe they're too excited and they're like, you know, I gotta have the latest and greatest, but at the same time, the numbers play out in a very similar manner. I mean, yeah, you extend the term, you have an MSRP that's almost very similar to the last slide that we just saw. And it's one of those things where they're, you know, if they're willing to bump out the term,
you can probably make the deal. And here's the fun part about this group of people who are upside down or underwater or whatever you call it there. They don't seem to have a hard time financing for a long term. The average term is 78 months. So if you're a salesperson or a sales manager that's gun shy about presenting an 84-month financing, this is not a conversation to say whether 84-month financing is good or bad. This is just like, if that's an option and you're like, I don't really want to present this, present it. Because look, people are paying 78 months on average.
Yeah, 6 and 7 year terms are the norm. I mean, it averages out to 78. I saw plenty 84-month terms in there because it's almost like half.
Yeah, so this is, again, this is not being pulled out of thin air. This is what people are doing. So here's your opportunities. Go after people who have trade-ins that are truck buyers. Go through your book of business that's in the store from previous buyers. Talk to people in the service drive. If the car is a little bit older, the truck's a little bit older,
That's fine.
that's fine. They got equity. If the truck's a little bit newer, don't let the negative scare you, because on average, these folks are rolling into 78-month loans happily, right?
Yeah.
Another opportunity, consider leasing. Just consider it. And the third opportunity is maybe what we would used to call carring them down. If somebody comes in with big hopes and big aspirations, let them have it. But maybe consider also something pre-owned.
Pre-owned is definitely a good option. I love me a certified vehicle.
Absolutely. You just bought one.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be getting one about 2 months too.
Soonish, yeah.
So consider a CPO vehicle and also consider something that's a little bit down market. That's going to work. So here's our high-level takeaways, right? Don't forget, your truck shopper is not the Marlboro man anymore. He might be, but it may not be. It also could be the Rock. It could be somebody who's got some fancy leanings. They want leather. They want this. They want that. Don't just go all salt to the earth with these folks, because that's not necessarily who's buying these 70 grand rigs. We just talked about mid-sized trucks and your CPOs.
My CPO.
I'm all in the way.
I know. I was
I'm
like,
gonna get out of the way.
Back up a little bit for everybody involved.
Now, tell them about this one.
Yeah, I'd say that's really what it is, though. The reason why we did this now is because we know that it's going to be the strongest months for truck sales coming up. So to help prepare, to help like remind you, like, look, these people are coming in hot and heavy. They're going to want a lot of truck. I don't care what they're currently driving. They are going to buy a lot of vehicles.
That's what they're doing.
And that's not a bad thing. I mean, automakers know it. Dealer guys know it for sure. Customer might not know what he's getting into, because, hey, if you haven't seen a truck in 6 or 7 years,
You don't know
it
about
might blow your mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So our suggestion is start this conversation now if you can. You know, the data says people are going to buy trucks in November, December, and October, right? Start your conversations now so that you're not shocking them with a $300 bump when time comes up.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else we want to add?
I can't think of much. I mean, we have so much, but I can't think of
Yeah, because we're trying to keep
I'm trying to keep it time-wise.
time-wise. Next slide, please. Next time we're doing this in a month,
Oh, yeah.
what are we talking about?
Talk about the sedans.
Sedans. The death of the sedan, right? The death of the sedan. That's not true. They ain't dying. We have a lot of conversation about sedans. We've got some info to share with you for people who are buying sedans. This is how you can reach us and watch our previous downloads. This is number 5,
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
Number 5. And
That's us.
that's us. So this is a sincere offer, okay? You can message us depending upon how you are viewing this. But if you have region-specific questions, if you want the deck for your own training purposes,
Email.
any email, and we're not saying this just to say it, we're saying it sincerely. Ask us questions. Here's our email addresses, and we're happy to get them handled.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Why don't you say your email addresses?
Oh, okay. Go say it.
Well, I'm idrury@edmonds.com, and this is Mr. Matthew Jones at
Edmunds.com. Matthew J, I Drury. And in the back, that's Jeremy. And right up here is our boss, Jessica. You can't see him, but they're making sure that we stay in line. Are we done?
I think that's it.
All right, let's go get some lunch.
All right, go ahead. Grab some water.
Bye, guys.